Hi, I'm Matt Roberts, health and OCR coach. Welcome to the Obstacle Dominator podcast. We specialize in training new and upcoming OCR athletes to excel in both life and competition. If you're a racer looking to improve your running, enhance your obstacle efficiency, and learn how to fuel your body for peak performance, you've come to the right place. We'll cover everything from building confidence, physical ability, your physique, and owning nutrition and recovery techniques. Join us for our weekly podcast episodes where you'll discover the race strategies and tactics that we teach our successful team members that will also allow you to dominate the obstacles in your path. Welcome, guys. We're here for another episode of the Obstacle Dominator podcast, and I'm joined by Mitch and Liam Mitchell, two of the phenomenal primal coaches. And today we're going to be discussing resilience, and I think more so than resilience, anti-fragility. I was blessed with the opportunity to jump on a podcast last year and talk about anti-fragility and what that is in comparison to resilience. So we'll dive into that, but what we're going to speak about is our physicality and mentality, and then also probably touching a little bit on spirituality and how each of those pillars feed into our overall growth, levels of happiness, health, and overall success, and move us closer to where we want to be. So yeah, that's a bit of an insight to what we may or may not cover. We'll have a bit of a knack for going off on a bit of a tangent and probably won't even get to half the topics that we want to, but that's fine. We're going to get back on this series, and from what we experienced this weekend, and Mitch, I mean, you can add into this as well. This is going to become a big thing of what we're doing, and just to share on that a little bit more, in-person events, meetups, retreats as well will be a big one. We've already got 4 scheduled for next year. The first one being in January, start of January, first weekend of January. The next one being 6 weeks later, 7 weeks later in Mallorca, and then one in June, and then one in September as well in the United States. All right, so if you're an avid listener of this podcast and of the work that we do and want to be part of it, or want to go deeper with the work that you're doing already, especially for the guys inside Primal, then speak to any of us. All right, and yeah, it's seriously powerful work, and it's the transformative work and the stuff that really makes the biggest and best impact. So Mitch, I think, yeah, anything you want to share on that so far? I mean, we don't need to go particularly deep right now, but just
yeah, this weekend was very powerful in the sense of you actually become into the real world when you come away from your digital devices, whether it's a TV, phone, laptop. You actually come together as who you are, and you can feel really connected, and it will teach you quite a lot about yourself. One of the first parts, going into the resilience, was obviously a walk through the woods so we could set up fire. And there was basically, I wouldn't say it was a big hill, but we had all this kit. It was wet, it was sludgy, and we had to climb up into the woods, and that can take quite some mental strength if you've never really done that before. And there's times where you kind of want to go into that fight or flight mode. It's and it comes down to your self-belief system. Can I do it? Right, I can do it, or I can't do it. And it's having that resilience to be able to push yourself in that uncomfortable environment to get to where you want to go. And I think that links to everything that we do within our life, whether it's training, whether it's routines, whether it's habits. There's things in our lives that become quite uncomfortable, and we can either lean into that uncomfortable situation to help us grow and understand more about ourselves, or we can just take an easy route and not do that, and just stay comfortable and complacent in where we are. So that was, I say, the first challenge. It was more of a it was a challenge in a way, especially if you haven't done it before. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll put some more context on this. So this weekend, a select few, 5 of us, decided to embark on a journey, like an adventure into nature here in the UK. And yeah, like Mitch mentioned, there was like a physical component to it, there was a mental component to it, there was a spiritual component to it. And I think something that come to me this weekend and through some of the conversations we had, Mitch, was like, we've been in preparation for this our whole life. The work that we're doing, physically, mentally, spiritually, isn't for the faint-hearted, and not everyone's ready to do that, because a lot of the guys travelled a long way from home. So that's the first challenge. One, to carve out the time. Two, to travel. Two, to not let excuses or avoidance or things pop up. Then arriving, and many of us had already fasted for a period of time, so people are hungry, they've just had a long journey, it was fucking pissing it down, like it was cold, it was windy, and then we're like, all right guys, we're going to hike into nature a couple of kilometers, climb up a mountain, it's fucking piss wet, fucking muddy, people slipping over, and also you're going to carry all this kit as well. So it's like you need to be mentally resilient to, one, to take on this challenge. Secondly, to like go into the unknown. Fortunately, all of the guys know each other relatively well, or at least know me very well. So there's like a level of trust to follow me into the darkness and into the woods. But then also being like physically resilient, and all of the guys that come along are part of the primal family and team. And yeah, having that physical like strength, endurance is important for obviously carrying like a heavy load of kit through terrain that is very, very challenging, but then also sleeping out in the elements eventually after the work that we done, because it was like getting there, moving in, constructing a camp, building a fire, all of these like survivalist things that we need to like know fundamentally as humans that we often don't. And yeah, actually having that is really cool. But then also like being out in nature, the actual event weekend was called the Elements because yeah, that's what I wanted it to be, and we certainly called that in, and it was really interesting how the weather patterns and the fire kind of like moved in conjunction with that as well. And me and Mitch had this interesting conversation before we fell asleep to the night, and it's like, wow, like that was a really powerful experience and everything we done. And I was like, well, like it's a true blessing and a gift that we have like this body, this mind, to be able to like utilize it in the way that we did and can, but also going even deeper with that and pushing ourselves to the limits. And I think it's quite saddening for me to like see and hear that people aren't like physically like healthy or strong or don't have the fitness that they should have as human beings. And that's not all of the individual's fault, it's the environment that we're in. And that like comfortability, really, the accessibility that actually weakens the human body and weakens the human mind in and amongst the things that we ingest from the environment. It's just softening and dampening and clouding our mind, body, and spirit. And that's why I think like the sport that we do, OCR and other physical like adventures and challenges, is general preparedness for life, because at the end of the night we said, all right, you up for running a marathon, Mitch? And we didn't do it, but it's like I know that I could, like if I really wanted to, like we've done it before, we could yomp through the night. Yeah, we could set up camp on the other side of the mountain. Yeah, we could do anything that we choose in the time that we had available and really push our limits. And I think it's great to have that knowingness that we can go that deep and go to those depths. And that's because of the work that we do on our physical body and our mindset that allows us to go that deep. And also the way of life, the nutrition, like how we detox our bodies, how we shield ourselves from like a lot of the things in the environment, whilst also using them to our advantage, as such things like technology. And with technology comes EMF that we need to shield ourselves from. But here we are online using Wi-Fi, but we're all turn that off at night when we sleep for 8 to 9 hours a night. Okay, so it's just being mindful and understanding these things so that we actually have this resilient body. But if imagine like your body is like a suit of armor, And across your life, you just take a little chink, a little scratch, a little dent, and slowly but surely that suit of armor becomes very weathered and damaged. So we want to use that to protect ourselves, but we don't want it to become so damaged that it can't be used anymore. And that's where the protective measures and the safety and shielding ourselves from the environment, what's in the modern environment, EMF, chemicals, toxins contained within our food, the air that we breathe, not being in contact with the earth, not getting sunshine. The list goes on and on and on. But if you want to be resilient or anti-fragile, then it's being mindful of all of the things that we have available to us and using them in the correct way while shielding ourselves from a lot of things that can be quite damaging to us.
Yeah, I always like the anatomy of looking at your body as like a supercar or a vehicle in itself. Like a vehicle has multiple components that it needs to function and to work, and over time those components can become worn down, and that's the same with the human body as well. And if you don't look after those components or look after your body, the maybe short term there may not be a lot of negative effects, but if you look at long term, that it can be quite damaging, and you don't want that. Like if you look at yourself now, especially for those that are listening to this or listen back to it and go, okay, where would I be 10 years from now if I carry on how I'm going? Like, are you going to be able to function, or are you going to struggle mentally, physically, spiritually? Like Matt, you was mentioning about how some people don't have the movement to just step up. Like if you look at some people in the world, they struggle to get up the stairs. Now that's quite a simple task, but for a lot of people, they struggle. Like it's physically and mentally demanding, and it can be exhausting from them. And that is just down to the knowledge that they've gained over the years, and also their habits, their lifestyle, and their routines, which is a shame to see, because no one should struggle to go upstairs. If anything, you should be able to glide upstairs. You should be able to move upstairs. That's what the human body is made to do. We're made to move.
Yeah, agreed. I think everything's really feedback. Like if we're not moving in the way that we want or need, or within the range of motion that our body allows us, that's feedback from the environment that something's not right. And I was actually having a couple of conversations last week about hip pain and back pain, and it's like the conversation I had with Mirren a few weeks back on the podcast. I urge you to go and listen to that, because that puts a lot more context on it. But it's like, where are we spending the most amount of time? If we're sitting in chairs all day, or in the instance of my sister, she was saying that she's got hip pain, and it's like, okay, well, you've been to a physiotherapist and they're saying that, oh yeah, like one leg's shorter than the other and blah blah blah, and the pain's caused by this. And I was like, well, did they ask you what you do for a living? Did they ask you how you're standing for 8 hours a day? And it's like, well, if you're standing on one leg and your hips are hiked on one side, yeah, your connective tissue is going to lengthen and shorten based on the stimulus that you're providing it. And same for sitting in a chair or looking at a phone all day and your neck's like this, you're going to end up with a hunchback. Like the body will shape based on the environment that we're in. And even if, like Mitch was saying, if you look in the mirror and you're not happy with the shape of your body, yeah, excess body fat is not correlated with good human health. We all have body fat. All three of us here are low body fat percentage, probably all under 10%, apart from Mitch anyway. He's looking a little bit chubby now, but yeah, that's not a good thing. You should really work to optimize your body, make your body healthy, because if you're not, then you're living in a very toxic suit, really, your vessel. So detoxifying that is massively important. So it's looking at your body, looking at your form, looking at the shape of it, like that's going to give you a lot of information of where you're at with your health, your levels of energy, and your happiness. And often that comes from the inputs or the stimuluses that we get from the environment or we put on ourselves as well. But the great thing is there's so much that can be done about it. And feeding back into what we were saying a little while ago, like resilience, anti-fragility, like the better we are as individuals, the more capacity we have for growth and the more that we can go out there and achieve. Yeah, and we were talking about the work that we were doing, like in terms of like the spiritual stuff, and it's like, well, our physicality allows us to go deeper with our mentality, and based on that mentality, we can go deeper with our spirituality, and vice versa, backwards and forwards. But if you're somebody that is like overweight and you can't move very well, or you're somebody that has like poor mental health, like you're suffering with stress, anxiety, maybe a little bit of depression, these are all byproducts of the environment. Yeah. And you don't have the capacity to like train and move because you don't have an energized body because it's in a toxic state. It's at a low frequency and you're pumping out low vibrations. Yeah. And the same with like the mental health. If you're watching the news all the time, death, destruction, fear, okay, well, that's potentially what you're going to be welcoming into your life. And it's like the constructs of our environment aren't there to set us up for success. They're there to push us down and suppress us. So if something's not compatible, if something's not in the way that you want, then look within, but then also look in the external world as well. But also don't be a victim and say that this is how I am and this is all I've got. Like everything can change. And often it starts with the first step, which is awareness. Okay. And then like taking some action. Okay. And it doesn't need to be massive action, although that's really, really powerful. It can be one small step. Yeah. So there's things that can be done. Matt, have you got anything you
There's a
want
couple
to
of things
share
that
on this?
popped up for me within what you guys were speaking about, and like heading back last weekend, I did something similar from a slightly better place of comfort, shall we say? But I hired out, or a few of us hired out, just a nice house in the middle of nowhere, and the main aim was like seeking that discomfort a little bit, by getting back to nature, removing ourselves. Like to get up to the house was like a bit of a hike, and it was like on a very, very steep incline, and that just gave us beautiful views of nature. But one of the things that you were saying as well is like stripping it back, and some of the things that we used to do. Like one of the guys, he tried to build a fire, and he just really wanted to have that so we could connect, but he couldn't even do it. Like after like 15 minutes, he gave up, and then I was like, right, let's get this working. So built this fire, and it was roaring beautifully. But one of the girls that we had with us, she was like straight away, she was like, that's so sexy. So like going back to sort of like how we are as humans, and even like the masculinity side is doing those basic things and doing it well, which comes back to like how we show up for ourselves. But yeah, we were like reconnecting with nature. We didn't have the distraction, and having like these basic skills in life, like when it comes down to resilience and whatnot, it's a very, very powerful thing. And because with like modern day technology and like the lack of exposure to these things, like we are becoming sort of softer in the way that we approach ourselves and the way that we show up. So like purposely planning these kind of things is really beneficial for one, getting back to how we used to be, but also like just keeping that skill set sharp. So yeah, those were a couple of things, or like reflections off what you guys were saying. Obviously mine was in a slightly less rugged, sort of wet terrain, but still getting out and forcing yourself to that exposure is really powerful.
I think it teaches a lot about your character as well. Like you mentioned there, like he was trying for 15 minutes and then gave up. But if we go back millions of years ago and it's cold and it's snowing, after 15 minutes you're not going to give up on that fire, because you're more than likely going to die because of the elements that you're in. Like you will find a way to build that fire. But in today's world, we can try something, but if it doesn't work, we kind of have the tendency, oh, fuck it, I'll just give up. And I think that's where the mentality of being resilient to push through that discomfort. Okay, I can't do it. How can I do it? Or leaning in for support of the people around you, and then learning about it, because it takes resilience and discomfort to learn things as well if you don't know how to do it. But our egos and internally, we can be like, think we know it all, and that can have a negative impact on you spiritually and mentally as well, because you can say you know it all, and if you don't do it, then it kind of, your self-belief system starts to drop a little bit, because you thought you did, the ego is telling you, yeah, I can fucking do it, but in reality you couldn't. And it can be down to shame, embarrassment, but you have to learn to accept it, like accepting certain things and then wanting to learn from it will help you grow, and that will show resilience. And that's something I've learned, especially over the past few years, to just, if I don't know something, just ask. There's no afraid, like lean into it.
Yeah, great points, Mitch. I took some notes as you were speaking, both of you actually. The first one was like talking about, or the thought that I had was like fixed mindset versus growth mindset. And I think that goes back to like environment. Yeah, things might be in the environment to suppress us, but there's also things in the environment to allow us to grow. And this touches on resilience and anti-fragility actually. So I've got some examples up actually. So I'll read through it, like the definition. Okay, so the difference between anti-fragility and resilience lies in how systems, individuals, or organizations respond to stress, challenges, or adversity. While both concepts relate to dealing with external pressures, their essence and outcomes differ. So resilience, definition. Resilience is the ability to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties without permanently being affected. Characteristics, endurance, focuses on maintaining stability or returning to a previous state after disruption. All right, so going back to baseline. Resistance to change. Resilience or resilient systems may bend under pressure, but aim to avoid breaking. Neutral outcome. Resilience doesn't necessarily improve a system, it simply helps to maintain. Okay, so it's like a neutral back to baseline. Here's a couple of examples. A swaying tree in the wind, but remaining upright, is resilient. A person recovering from a major setback and returning to the original baseline of functioning. Okay, so basically what this means is, okay, if we experience a setback, we get back to the place that we were. Okay, so let's just talk about this like in a physical training aspect. You sustain an injury, yeah, and it sets you back 3-6 months, like many people do, and then in the next 3 to 6 months, you get back to baseline. All right, so no further improvements are made. So that's the first part. And then anti-fragility. Definition of anti-fragility is the ability to thrive, improve, and grow stronger when exposed to stresses or challenges. Key characteristics, adaptation and growth. Anti-fragility embraces uncertainty and pressure as opportunities for evolution. Thriving on disruption. Systems or individuals that are anti-fragile don't just survive adversity, they use it to enhance their capabilities. A positive outcome. Anti-fragile systems emerge better and more robust after challenges. Here are examples. Human muscles becoming stronger after resistance training, providing there's the correct recovery and inputs to allow that adaptation to take place. Another one, entrepreneurs using market downturns to innovate and gain competitive advances in their businesses. Okay, so in essence, resilience is about bouncing back to that baseline, maintaining what they previously had. And anti-fragility is using that opportunity to grow forward, yeah, and continue to improve. And then just thinking about like what you were saying, Matt, about the fire scenario, and Mitch, what you were saying as well, it's like the importance of having gatherings and meetups like we've just been through is like the people and the people that are in that environment and the opportunities that we have to grow. So in that instance, or in all of these instances, it's like having the right people with the right skills, having the right resources with you. So it's just having the preparation that comes from the knowingness of what you're about to go into and what resources you need going into that. But then also being open-minded and receptive to who else is in that environment that you can acquire new skills from and learn from, but then also what value you can add. And on the event that I was on in Ibiza a couple of weeks ago, I was speaking about like specialists and generalists. Humans are both. Yeah, like we are a specialist in our own right, in our professions or whatever we know, as are other people, but then also we're generalists, so we can be flexible and adaptable to change. We are not just one thing, we are many, and we're even more when we are with a tribe, with a community. Yeah, so that's the benefit of doing these things. You might have someone that can build the fire. Great, you build the fire, you get that roaring. Great, you're a gatherer. Great, you go and gather the resources. Okay, and everyone being happy to settle into that. And then another person could go out and hunt or construct or whatever. But we all need to have the ability to do it. In the military, particularly the army, I don't know if there was a different saying for you in the RAF, Matt, but what they used to always say to us was, regardless of your trade, you were a soldier first, you're a fighter first. Yeah, and then you're your trade second. So it's like you're the generalist and then you're the specialist. But in mine and Mitch's profession, actually, our specialism was combat, it was warfare. And then all the other generalist things we would do would be like, you're an engineer and you're a pioneer and you're a driver and you're fucking Mortarman and whatever else. So we need to have both. We need to have the ability to do stuff. And then thinking about like ancient cultures like Spartans, like we've all seen the film and all know a lot about the history. It's like, what is your profession? Yeah, and the profession is war fighters, like from the age of 7, like that is what they do. But then also they had the ability to construct and do this and do that. So that was what come up for me. But that's just highlighting the importance of why it's important to not lone wolf it. And I've certainly been there and spoke about it before. And it's super easy to like isolate ourselves and seclude ourselves from others and situations. But it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, one of the other things as well, I think, is people have this tendency to give up like far too easily. So they expect this outcome where, you know, you might be trying something for the first time or the second or third, but because you can't do it or you don't do it as well, like innately, we're like, right, let's just give up because it's too hard or whatever. Every single one of us at some point has been terrible at something. And the only reason or the only way you get good is through repetition, through practice, through exposing yourself to failures, and at the same time, like embracing them rather than going, okay, yeah, I'm going to embarrass myself here. Well, I'm pretty sure every single one of us at some point will have embarrassed ourselves. But if you're prepared to then expose yourself to that embarrassment time and time again, you're going to get better at it. So like leaning into that and knowing that it's okay to fail or to be embarrassed and whatnot, that's what's going to help you like get better at anything. And like I do it every time that I go off and learn Spanish. You know, I constantly put myself into a position where I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to feel stupid. But I know that that is part of the process of getting better at that individual subject. It's the same as everything else that we apply ourselves to in life as well. If you want to get better, you have to be prepared to fail and to not give up when things get a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, man, agreed. Mitch, you got anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, like people see failing as quite a negative consequence, if you want to call it. They fail at something and they think it's such a bad thing, and I think that stems back from growing up as a kid, being at school. Like if you fail at something, you get laughed at, or you get have the piss taken out of you, or right, you're not good enough in that sense. When actually, Chinny was saying there, like the failures is what makes you become stronger, become more resilient to harder things and harder challenges in life.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Just think of like a newborn child. Yeah. When they start to learn to walk and they can't get up off the ground, we never think, oh, yeah, that child's never going to walk unless they've got certain issues or whatever else. That child will get up, it will fall. It will try to get up, it won't be able to. It will get up, it will fall. Then it will be able to stand and it will wobble a little bit. It will attempt to take a first step, then it will fall. Then it will take its first step, then its second, then its third. And that is a great analogy for life. Like when you're a baby, not that we remember, you don't think to yourself, well, I'm not going to be able to walk. They persevere. They persevere and they persevere and they persevere and they fall and they fall and they fall, setback after setback. And then eventually they're 2 years old and they're sprinting everywhere. So it speaks a lot. Just speaking about the mentality, and this is something we embody in our tribe, in our community. The first thing is like progress over perfection. Yeah, focusing on just box checking, taking that next step, and it doesn't need to be like perfect. Yeah, it's about taking the action consistently, consecutively for enough time that allows us to progress. And progress isn't always linear and it isn't always forward. Sometimes we have to like settle for a little while or consolidate. Sometimes there can be a little bit of regression before a progression. But here's a great thing to remember, and this is something else we embody. It's like you will either win or you will learn. Okay, and both of those are great outcomes. And when you look at it that way, there's actually no losses. Like failure isn't even a thing. Failure is just presenting you with the opportunity to recalibrate, learn, and go again. And that's talking about like the anti-fragility. And that could be something like talking about an injury or an external event or something that's happened. It can be really, really easy to adopt the victim mindset of like, why me? Poor me. Why is this happening? Yeah. But there's no ownership and accountability for that. Rather than seeing that thing, that experience, that opportunity to really be anti-fragile and grow through it and bounce back to baseline and become stronger than that. And life is this journey and this learning experience. We can let it suppress and depress, or we can let it elevate us to success. And those are really the options, but it is that mentality around it. And then the spiritual aspect is like we are guided, and something we touched on a lot this weekend is like often the signs are there. They're screaming us and smacking us in the face, but we either choose not to see them or we just flat out don't see them. And there were so many synchronicities. It's like speaking about Sarah, her two nieces had gone to town on her notepad and they'd drawn all sorts of like weird and wonderful things like weeks ago. And she arrives and gets her notepad out and stuff that she'd journaled and some things that she wanted to gift to the fire. And many of the drawings that her nieces had drawn come up in the ceremonies that we done in other people's like visions, insights in the fire. And it's like there is this interconnectedness. There are all these synchronicities around us all of the time. Even one like what brought all five of us and only us five to this part of the country from all over the country at this precise time to do this precise work. It's it's all it's all flowing energy, and we can choose to listen to it or not. But my reason in saying this is just like be more aware, be more in tune, and actually that's the thing that we're looking to achieve here, is like awareness and like connectedness. So going back into like all the things that are there to suppress and depress, actually the more we focus on our health, and increasing our levels of energy through like shielding ourselves from certain negative inputs, and then also raising our frequency and our vibration through positive inputs like food, light, the list goes on, then actually the more in tune we can come. Like a really interesting one is like water. Josie done a post on water the other day, and some guy wrote on the post like, "Where did you get this information from? Like, I want to see." It's like the poison in the water. The people that are in control of the water, maybe not the individual companies, but the higher powers, the people behind that, put fluoride in our water. There's also birth control in our water. Do you think humans should be ingesting those things? No, because like birth control pills that have been urinated into the water through the people that ingest them is not good for anyone. It's not good for men to be ingesting female hormones, but then also there's fluoride in the water, which is damaging to our health. And actually, in particular, our pineal gland in our brain, which is actually the antenna for connectedness to higher powers. Why would they want people more aware? Why would they want people more in tune? Why would they want people more connected to the environment? And that's just one simple thing. And this isn't about conspiracy stories or blah, 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 blah. And something that come to me then also is like people can be judgmental of like the things that we say and what we stand for, but one thing, without being like too forward on this, it's like look in the mirror, look at your physical form. That is giving you such accurate feedback based on the stimuluses that you're providing it. Yeah, think about your thought processes. Like, we shouldn't be thinking negative thoughts, but it's hard to think positively if we're in the wrong environment and that wrong internal state as well. And often that's because of what we're ingesting: media, foods, water, digital stimulation after dark, not getting enough sleep. Okay, so just be mindful of all of those things. And one other thing I wrote was, many of the people that listen to this podcast and everyone that we coach currently runs some form of like endurance event at some capacity, whether that's OCR, Spartan, trail running, fell races, endurance events which are hard mentally and physically. And I feel like this is essential for us to have this dynamic physicality where we can run, hike, swim, climb, crawl, carry, like endure in the most like difficult environments, situations, and single-handedly solo going through these, so that when you're part of a team, you are enhancing that team dynamic, and that comes back onto the skill set as well, like physicality, but then also like the mentality, the knowingness, the knowledge, the resources, the skills. But the real work lies within the deep transformative work that lies within inside us, that comes from all of the constructs in society, things we've learned from our parents, family members, in our instance, the military, which is an institution which essentially brainwashes young people to join a fighting force to go and fight wars around the world. And they sell it to you by offering you free accommodation and low taxes and, hey, you get to see the world, but actually you're causing death and destruction in the world. So the real work lies with like facing self. Like, I've been to combat, I've been to war, and in many ways it's easier to go on a deployment than it is to sit around a fire like we did this weekend and really cast a big spotlight on the deepest, darkest parts of you that we avoid, we suppress. We don't want to face, because it can be very, very challenging. But when we do, and Mitch, I'll let you speak in a minute, but also on the weekend, it's like I feel fucking motivated, charged, like I feel light, I feel strong, I'm fucking excited for what's ahead. But when I go and run a Spartan race weekend and batter myself on a trifecta, I'm fucking achy, I'm sore, I'm stressed because of all the travel, probably air travel. My gut needs a reset. So what I'm saying is, like, we need balance between all of these components. And we especially see it with all the guys that go after the shield and do multiple trifecta weekends or do multiple races a weekend. Yes, that's important. That's important for like your physical body and your mental resilience. but we shouldn't be doing it to the extent where actually it's becoming problematic and that's all we're doing, because that's not upgrading yourself and that's not adding value and giving you fulfillment into your life. It can, if there's the correct dose of it, but it can actually take away from your overall success if there's too much of it. And that's why we are personally investing in ourselves, like Mitch coming this weekend, Matt doing weekends, and all the work that you're doing behind the scenes that I want you to share more of as well. Not necessarily now, but in the coming weeks and months. And also the work that I'm doing on events and retreats and stuff like that. These things make me full, like they leave me fulfilled and fucking energized. Whereas running a race at the weekend often beats the shit out of me. Okay, and we need that from time to time, but we don't want to cross the threshold where it's too much and actually it drags us down and takes us down. So it's everything that we're talking about, because that's what enhances our lives as human beings. I want humans around me that are fucking physically like tough, resilient, anti-fragile, but I also want people that are that with their mindset. Okay, and I know that not everyone's like exactly where I am with my physicality and my mentality. But the beautiful thing is you can get around me, you can get around Mitch, you can get around Matt, you can get around like the 60 other people that we like currently coach and learn from them. But then feeding that back into the skills and resources, we don't need to know everything. You as you are right now, listener, person, human, like you are enough and you know enough right now to add value. The thing that gets in your way is that lack of self-belief. Yeah, that doubt. But you can add value to people's lives. And we wholeheartedly know that we will add so much value to your lives. And all the people that are in this community will add value to your lives. Yeah, and that's what we're about. Yeah, like primal, like is like the most primitive, basic, like needs, like not just for survival, but for thriving, like humanity should be doing. But at the moment, humanity is not thriving. They think they are, but they're so comfortable, actually they're uncomfortable. And that's what we want to do, is add a little bit more of the uncomfortable back in to make you anti-fragile so that you can grow exponentially, mentally, physically, spiritually. And that's really where the work lies. And I see a lot of elite OCR athletes, I see a lot of the age group races, I see a lot of the recreational open heaters, like doing a lot of races thinking that that's the real work, but it's not the real work. Like the stuff that we are teaching, the stuff that we are doing, embodying, that is the work. And like we welcome you to the ultimate challenge of facing self. But when you take that first step, then we'll help you and guide you. And that goes for the people that are currently on the program, because there's a lot of people not stepping into their own in the fullest capacity. Yeah, they're throwing all the time, effort, and energy into the physical training and not facing self. And there can be blocks. Anyone else want to share?
I think with one of the things that I've noticed, and it's going off slightly, but when it comes to like your own personal development or trying to get to the next level, a lot of people tend to follow the same pattern. They'll do something, they'll get absolutely motivated, they'll fly towards it, but there's this lack of self-reflection. So if you're just going to head off in one direction and go at it at 100 mile an hour and then not evaluate to where you're at, what you can actually be doing is going the wrong direction, what you think is the right direction at that moment. So like in all areas of your life, like just take a moment every now and again, reflect on where you've been, where you're going, and if it's the trajectory you want to be on, rather than exhausting time, energy, everything else, but it's actually leading you down the path which is not serving you in the long run. And prime one would be like your physical appearance or your physical like your what's the word? Your fitness levels. So if you've not been making progress in the way that you should be, then it's like reevaluate why. Is it my nutrition's off? Is it I'm sleeping, like not getting enough sleep? Is it that I've got too much stress in my life? So have these reevaluations so you can actually change the course that you're on, or slow it down, or get back to more basic things that we need to be focusing on. That was just one of the things I was thinking about previously when you were talking about sort of the trajectory and things.
Yeah, nice, Matt. Mitch, anything you want to add?
Yeah, we tend to think we know ourselves. Like before this weekend, I thought I knew myself inside and out. When the reality was there was actually quite a lot I didn't know about myself. I knew I was physically capable of pushing myself to the limit. Mentally, I can take on a lot of stress. But then emotionally, that's where, or what came up was, I didn't know how to regulate how I'm feeling or how I reacted. I thought I did, and I thought I handled it well. But in the reality, I actually don't. And that was a key point for me this past weekend that I need to work on. And especially on social media, you see a lot of influencers that will copy each other, and they think they know everything about you, they know everything about themselves. But internally, as humans, there's a lot more about us that we don't actually know. And there's a lot of work that we need to do to become better. And then that goes back to, one, knowing what that is, and then doing the work. And then that comes down to what Chinny was saying about self-development, like being able to take that time to develop yourself. But that doesn't mean spending hours each day on yourself. It could be 10 minutes, like 10 minutes just sitting with yourself and your thoughts. And I know, Matt, you've spoke about it before, like a lot of people can't sit there for 10 minutes with themselves, with their thoughts. It's a lot of people would find that challenging and uncomfortable because they don't know how to process or deal with what's going on. And we should be able to do that. We should be able to sit with ourselves, not even necessarily understand what's coming through, but be like, okay, this is what my thought process is. This is what the emotions I'm feeling, how I'm feeling. Okay, what is it teach me? Like, what am I trying to show myself? Or like, what's my body showing me or telling me right now? Because our bodies have a very good way of showing us things, but then it comes back to the signs. We don't listen to them. Like, if we're tired, we're going to mentally feel it. If we're feeling sore, it's an indicator we've done too much and we need to take a break. If we're constantly on the toilet shitting ourselves, then we've had some food that isn't good for us and we need to cut that out. Or if we're feeling low around certain people, okay, am I supposed to be connected in this environment around those people? Like, the world has a very good way of showing us things. We just, as humans, we don't listen.
I think that's really powerful, Mitch, what you said about like sitting with self, and many people's inability to sit with self. I mean, I even struggle with it at times, but then it's like that knowingness of, okay, hang on a minute, like what's showing up for me? I even had a moment like when I woke up this morning because I'm so fucking motivated. I was like, got out of bed. I was like, right, I got to go here. I got to do this. I need to do that. I was like on one. I was like, okay, hang on a minute. Like, let's just consolidate and let's like sit with self, and like went into like a meditation only for 4 minutes. And actually that just calmed me, grounded me. And then I got more focused rather than like, I want to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it was just like, bum, 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 bum. And then probably I'd end up achieving nothing because I'm just fucking running around like a headless chicken. But then grounded myself, meditated, sat with self, and actually gained a lot more clarity. But a lot of the things we've been saying is like numbing, dampening down, avoiding. I've had many conversations with people in the community that are like, yeah, I'm going to do this, or I don't think I could do that. Like, question yourself, like, why are you not showing up? Like, why are you excusing yourself from certain scenarios, situations, opportunities that will equate to your growth? That's the very thing. It's the fear of the unknown and the growth that can come from that, which can be uncomfortable, which can be challenging. So we don't want to confront it. So I think like sitting with self is a powerful thing. But here's the thing, like if you think you should do something, you should. Yeah. Not, I'm thinking about doing this thing. I know I should be doing it. Maybe I'll try it. Like switch that kind of haphazard, not very clear language and behavior to I must do this. Like I need this. And then commit. Spoken to Ryan Patterson this morning, like I posted a bit about the event, and as of you guys, he's like hopped on the phone with me this morning. He's like, Matt, I'm in. Like straight away, I want this. And it's like, there's no fucking around. Like Ryan's been with us since the summer, and he's just gone from growth to growth, strength to strength, more and more. Why? Awareness around wanting change. Secondly, taking action and committing to a process. And three, on top of that, continually progressing through ebbs and flows of life. And then that's the thing that adds to like the consistency over time and the results. And it's like, what's next? The next level, going deeper. So we all want to grow, and we all can grow exponentially in a multitude of different ways, and I like want that for everyone. And that was a really powerful thing that come from the retreat I went in Costa Rica, like coming out of some ceremonies, and like the insights that I had, I can't even like put into like words, like this human language, like English is not enough to like comprehend that in any way, shape or form. But like I want like what we're sharing for everyone, this like this wholesome likeness that can come from like everything we're talking about. Yeah, I think there's really only like one or two other points I want to mention on this, because we could chat for like ages, and then I'll let you guys like share any final points before we wrap up. But yeah, like bigger picture and like vision of like what we're doing is huge. Like more of these in-person events, meetups, gatherings. Some are small, like a day or a morning, and we've created a number of groups for that. And like we just want you to come along and like just be part of something with someone. But then also on a bigger picture, we've got the online like coaching, which is super powerful. And to put more context on this, the reason I constructed this online platform was because it's far more powerful than in-person coaching, like alone. And we know a lot of people, including ourselves, that have been part of like one-to-one coaching. It's powerful. It really helps with like developing a skill set or a slight movement, but often there's no more context on it, like dialing in the nutrition and building healthy habits. You turn up to a personal training session, get battered for 45 minutes or an hour, and then come out of there and then go back twice a week. But you might be moving forward physically, but your body might not still look the same. Whereas with this, it's nutrition, physical training, it's lifestyle habit formation, it's the mindset, it's the spirituality. But now also we're understanding that we need more in-person work, and that's why we're doing these meetups. This is why we're doing these events. This is why we're doing these retreats, and like approximately every 3 months will be a bigger one, and then probably bi-weekly there will be a smaller one for people to get involved on. And this is like the integration, like the weekend that me and Mitch have just had, super powerful with the people that we've had. But now the wisdom, the insights that have been gained need to be integrated into life. And that's everything from like what we'll be doing on these like workshops, events, retreats, is like really working on our like movement, like so strength, like movements, like dynamic movements, skill-based stuff that like obstacle courses or in gyms and things like that, but also focusing on like the mentality and getting you thinking in like a constructive, positive way. So you're pushing that like constructive, positive like frequency and vibration out into the world, but then also like Mitch mentioned, like the emotional work that can seem a little bit like, yeah, like not masculine as such, especially for someone like Mitch talking about this, but actually it is balancing that masculine energy with that female energy, and emotions is like energy in motion. Yeah, so that's what we're talking about when we're talking about emotions. It's like a form of energy, but moving that energy to where it needs to go, or like not exactly like dissipating it, but allowing that to like move and transform and be let go into another form of energy. So it's out of our body so that that can move on. But then also like the spiritual work, which is really like connectedness to like self, true self and authenticity. But then that's also connection to higher powers, nature, like spirit, but then also connectedness to other people. And it was super fascinating this weekend. Like, we're speaking about the synchronicities with Sarah's notepad and like Dean and like Mitch and Sarah and like all these things. And it's like, wow, all of this stuff is like connected. We're connected. But then also feeling other people's vibration and energy as well. Like, and not just physically seeing it, but feeling it as well, which is really, really powerful. Like, and going back to the point, like, I want this for everyone. Like, and you can all have this, but it takes a little bit of work, and often it's very uncomfortable work. But if you think running a Spartan race or doing OCR is uncomfortable, sit with self, face self. Yeah, Spartan races help you with the physicality and the mentality, and also the training that we do to build up to that. But if you want to push harder with that and go deeper than you ever have before, it lays with the emotions and the spirituality. And equally, if you're somebody that's deep into your spiritual journey and neglecting your physicality and your mentality, then this will allow you to go even deeper. And that is what we are forming now, is these pillars that are constructs of a healthier, happier, anti-fragile human that, yeah, is evolving like endlessly. But we need to go through this like awakening to then evolve. Actually, what we do with our coaching, that's what our programs are. I'm going to stop talking now, but is there anything you guys want to add, like anything whatsoever?
Yeah, there was one thing that you touched on basic, like a little while back, in terms of the language that we use for ourselves. And one of the things that I notice, like whenever I'm out, I sort of like become quite observant to the words that people use, or even people that I've worked with previously, and just invite people to actually look inwards, and or when they are speaking, like what language are you using? Because I hear the word try a lot, which is actually quite a negative connotation. And with that word in its own right, that's implying that there's a lack of commitment, which is allowing you to already fail at the things that you want to be looking to achieve. Okay, so it's lack of confidence in your ability to succeed, which gives you like you're going to go in half-hearted towards it. So things like try or can't, should, like these are massive words which all have negative connotations. So yeah, just invite anyone listening back to this to just look inwards and see what vocabulary you're using within your life. Because just by eliminating that, you're going to give yourself that self-belief when you say I can, or I will do this. So yeah, just that was something that you mentioned earlier that we sort of breezed over. Just wanted to draw a little bit more attention to that.
You're going to make me go off on another tangent now. I think it's a great point, and something I'm learning and have definitely become more aware of is like, and we're talking about like frequency and vibration, and talking about like emotions, energy in motion. Yeah, like the words that I am speaking, that is a vibration, that is energy that I'm pushing out. Like, you're hearing these words at this particular frequency, and you're receiving that vibration into your body. Yeah, and even our thoughts as well. That's that's vibration, that's energy. So it's like thoughts and words. So thinking negative thoughts and speaking negative things can welcome negativity, negative situations, darkness into our life. And to put context on this, think about like spellings, like when you write and when you're learning spellings, yeah? that could also be known as like casting spells, and that's where it comes from, which we're talking a little bit about like witchcraft. Okay, so like the words we speak, the thoughts we have, the things we write, we're casting spells. And a big thing we done this weekend was like affirmations and manifestations. So manifesting the reality that we are now achieving, yeah, and having the belief and the confidence through thought, through speech, and through collective internal vibration and in synergy with other people. But alluding to what Matt was saying, we use language that is doubtful and doesn't have confidence, even using words like, oh, that's sick, or wicked, or saying fucking hell to emphasize things. These are all like negative things to use in terms of our language. We say sick. Why would we want like sick to be, it's not a positive thing to say, but we use it in a positive context, but it's not. And our body and mind and higher powers don't know the difference between that. We don't want to say sick because we can potentially welcome sickness into our life. Yeah, we don't want to say wicked because we don't want to have wickedness in our lives. We certainly don't want to say fucking hell, because if we think about the context of fuck or fucking, that is sex. And if we think about like sexual intercourse, like that union between, well, it could be self, it could be with other people or another person. Like fucking is potent energy, it's life force in a way, because it creates life. What is more potent than sexual energy? Like it creates life. So if we're saying fucking hell, what we're saying is creating hell, and we don't want to create hell on earth. We don't want to welcome that into our lives or into this realm. Yeah. So we're just being mindful of what we're saying. Like we want to create like divinity, heaven, love, light, vibration. Yeah. So you use the word fuck or fucking to create. Yeah. But create things that we want in our life, because it's creation, it's potent. And what we can do is actually switch our language to lush, divine, love, light, beautiful, grand, excellent, all these things, but being very confident in it. And something I learned on the event that I just went on a couple of weeks ago was not welcoming people in the morning when you greet them with good morning. Because, yeah, morning and different spellings of morning are different in the English language. But if you think of morning, like you could be mourning, you know, like mourning, like something negative or a death or a bereavement. So instead of saying that, saying like grand rising. Yeah. So there's just little things we can do with our terminology, but if we're not experiencing the life that we want to be living, think about the thought processes that we're having, and think about the words that we're speaking, and that frequency that we're currently set at, and that vibration that we're pushing out. And then that just kind of goes on to all of the things that we're talking about, of like the external environment can create the internal environment, but also the internal environment and our spellings and our vibration can impact the external environment. So something has to change, and that's what we're thinking, and we're telling you about like this constructive positive model that we have, because it's everything, and everything matters. If you want to manifest the reality and the life that you want, it is all of these things that we're mentioning. And if you're pushing so far in one direction with the physicality, maybe the mentality, the emotions, the spirituality is getting neglected. And to be a healthier, happier human, we need to have all of these aspects. Okay, rant over, but be mindful of our speech and thoughts. Thanks for bringing that out, Matt. And that's it. That's what we're talking about, collectiveness of community. Like we've got this stuff within, and we bring the best out in each other. Or can bring the best out in each other. Anything final? Be mindful of what you say, because I could go off on another one.
Just the one with the words like carrying on from this. Like you mentioned, like I must do this, or some people say I have to do this, like I have to go to work, or I have to train, and it can become quite dwelling and negative to yourself. And it's just going back to that reframing. Like you can say I get to do this, because there's people out there that physically don't have the capability to do things due to whether it's illness or whatever it is. So you should be grateful that you get to do certain things, because you may be in a position where you're not able to do them in the future. So it's like just expressing, like, I can do this, like I can physically get to do something.
It's what powers you through a 20-mile run. Legs are literally falling off, and you're like, I get to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the spirit.
Yeah, this is kind of what I was getting the point out. I wrote a post in the school group, and like talking about like mean feats of endurance. It's good to have the ability to do it, but I put in the group, it's like, what are you running away from? And I see this with a lot of people that do a lot of like tough endurance events, and that's all they do. And then when actually you dig into it, it's like, what are you trying to escape? What are you trying to avoid? And then you dig into their history, and it's like, oh yeah, I was abused in a relationship, or my parents were absent, and whatever else. And it's like, the thing I learned recently was like seeking significance through inadequacy, because there was failings in my early life that led to me feeling like inadequate, abandoned, not optimal. And then I went on this massive streak for the next 30 years of seeking significance and achieving a lot and having a lot of success. But yeah, it's a really fascinating thing. So just something to reflect on, if you can sit with yourself and reflect. If you can't, then that is a sign that some work needs to be done.
Oh, I thought you was going to say get a fucking grip, but...
that's maybe old Matt, I think. Yeah, past version. Yeah. All right, team. Any final words, thoughts?
No.
So yeah, I'll just wrap it up with saying, like, thanks to you guys and everything you've contributed to this conversation, and thanks to everyone that's listening here. If you've taken value, like, share this like message with us. Like, give this episode to just one person. Like, just go on the shares right now and share this, and send this to someone that you feel needs to hear this. I have heard of 2 suicides of men in the past 2 weeks. Yeah, that's just 2 that I've heard of. One guy from the past, and then someone through I know. That should not be happening. And that happens because we can't face self, we can't face the world. There's judgment from self, from others, the situation. It's so saddening that people feel like they need to do that, and they can't speak out. But that just speaks volumes of the environment we live in. All right, so send this message. Yeah, like there's so much love and light out there, and so much joy to be experienced. And yeah, we need to push through a little bit of discomfort, but yeah, on the other side of that is, yeah, just bliss, absolute bliss. Yeah, we're going to be hosting a number of like weekends over the next couple of weeks, building up to Christmas, and then the 3rd through to the 5th of January, which is a Friday through to Sunday. We're going to be hosting an event here in the UK, in the west of England. Yeah, and we're going to connect with nature, connect with self, connect with other people, fire, food, techniques. There'll also be some other like therapies and deep work, but it will be transformative. So yeah, if you think you should give one of us a message, and we'll go from there. All right, appreciate you guys. Thanks very much, and we will see you on the next one. And another thing, synchronicity, this podcast ends at 111111. Goodbye. See you later, guys. Bye.
See you later.
See you later.
Thanks for listening. If you found value in today's podcast, then we'll greatly appreciate a rating and a review, so we can help find more people like you. Also, sharing this episode on your social media channels will help us reach more people, so that we can provide them with the same knowledge, race strategies, the tactics to allow us all to succeed in both life as well as competition. Also, if you'd like to dive deeper and learn more about how we can support you on your journey, then head over to Instagram or Facebook and send me a direct message. Alternatively, you can visit livingprimal.co.uk for more information about our services. Catch you next time.